Hey everyone, I'm Sam, back with another commentary video on Steven Universe. Today I will be discussing some of my own ideas on how the show is flawed and could be improved, taking into account many opinions from voices all over the community. Before I start the video, I want to once again thank the wonderful amino apps for sponsoring this video. I've talked about them before, and in case you need a refresher, they create amazing apps for fans to share their love for shows and games with each other. Today I'll be talking specifically about the Gem Amino app, an app specifically made for Steven Universe fans to come together and chat, share art and trivia, discuss theories, and contribute to the ever-growing community. Since I last talked about them, they have added a bunch of new features, such as quizzes for everyone to take part in, more customization to make your amino more suited to you, and a leaderboard system that adds depth and interactivity to the community. They've also fixed some bugs and made the app more compatible and easy to use than ever, making now a perfect time to get started. So, if a friendly platform where you can freely yell about your love for the show sounds right for you, check out the completely free download links in the description below. With that being said, let's move on to the video. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed an increase in criticism towards Steven Universe as of lately, and I thought I'd make my own video in an attempt to explain the reasoning behind it to help people understand the quite rightful anger, along with what could be done to make the show more inclusive and safe for everybody. This video will contain discussions of racism in the show, and I'd like to make it clear that I am white, and I am simply forwarding the points made by people of color in the fandom. If I say anything insensitive or incorrect throughout the video, please do feel free to correct me in the comments. My goal here isn't to take credit for the points made, but rather to make them more clearly heard throughout the fandom. I will mainly be focusing on the treatment of characters of color. To understand why this is an issue, first we have to understand a little something called coding. And I don't mean like HTML and all that. When people say Garnet is black, for example, many's first reaction is to state that she is an alien and does not have a human race. While this is true, racial coding exists and is something that is very heavily and intentionally used in Steven Universe. Racial coding is when a non-human character is designed to resemble a certain ethnicity, therefore aligning the character with that ethnicity. This can be seen in many media, such as the characters in Cars, Kung Fu Panda, and pretty much any Disney movie. Now, racial coding has been done negatively in the past, and is only recently becoming a positive thing, meant to bring representation to marginalized ethnicities, which is why Steven Universe was seen as such a revolutionary and important show towards its beginning. The diverse cast of the show is nothing to be depreciated, as it has brought much joy and representation to the LGBT community, along with people of color worldwide, and has much more diversity than most modern media. Representation is important because it helps normalize the existence of marginalized groups, it gives them a place to speak about their issues and experiences, and helps young marginalized children grow up feeling happy and proud of who they are. This is what Steven Universe did. For a while. The problems started arising around the episode Coach Steven. Before this, we had only seen one fusion between the crystal gems, Opal, so we had no comparison base for how other fusions would behave. There is no doubt that Garnet is coded as black and Amethyst is coded as Latina and black, whereas Pearl, while it is possible to read her as Filipino due to her voice actress, is blatantly paler than the other two gems, and is often treated as much superior to Garnet and Amethyst. This becomes very clear when Garnet and Amethyst fuse into Sugalite, a monstrous and uncontrollable fusion, voiced by Nicki Minaj, that can only be beaten by the graceful, elegant Pearl. I'm sure you can understand the problem here. This episode was where most people started to realize that maybe things weren't as peachy as they seemed. This superiority is also seen with how Sardonyx and Opal, the fusions between the crystal gems that contain Pearl and one of the explicitly non-white gems, are shown as much more graceful and controlled than the fusion that contains both explicitly non-white gems, along with how Pearl was portrayed as a sympathetic victim when she manipulated Garnet, and Garnet was portrayed as scary and cruel for getting upset about it. From then on, things seemed to continue relatively smoothly, right up until the episode Bismuth. This episode is pretty infamous for the amount of criticism it received, but when you look at it from a person of color's point of view, it's really not that hard to see why. Bismuth is very clearly meant to be a black woman, as shown by her dreadlocks. Now, the show leading up to this point had been carrying a very clear metaphorical message about society that you may have only picked up on if you could relate to it. Garnet, a forbidden fusion made up of non-binary lesbian lovers Ruby and Sapphire, was a metaphor for gay love. Blue Diamond's court being shocked and disgusted by her fusion was a metaphor for homophobia, and Blue Diamond herself demanded that Ruby be shattered for her actions. This is very clearly commentary on the homophobia still prevalent in today's society, and was included in the show to portray Homeworld and the Diamond's rule as a terrible, hateful dictatorship. In fact, you can find evidence of this metaphor all over the show. Jasper's hatred of fusions was also a metaphor for homophobia, along with colonialism, as she supported the Diamond's forceful takeover of Earth. Any gems that did not adhere to gem society or stepped outside the status quo would be shattered or deemed criminals. A gem's worth was placed entirely in what they could do for their diamond, and if they didn't do it, they would be cast out from society or killed. Rose's rebellion against this system was first portrayed as a heroic act. She wanted to free the gems that were being forced to be something they didn't want to be. So many gems had died and been enslaved under the Diamond's rule, and she wanted to put an end to that. And here is where the controversy starts. Bismuth wanted to put an end to this too, but she wanted to do so more directly. She wanted to shatter gems. Many's reaction to this was to berate her for her choices. However, most people failed to realize that she never intended to shatter innocent gem soldiers who were only doing their jobs. In fact, she very clearly specified that she only wanted to shatter the upper crust gems, gems that are placed high in society, gems that have the authority to shatter and enslave lower gems as they please, with no one stopping them. She was not aiming for meaningless genocide, she was trying to stop the meaningless genocide that the Diamonds were already enacting. I understand that the show is aiming to show peace as the superior option, but sadly, peace is not always an option. Rose chose to rebel mostly peacefully, and she ended up with 5 remaining living crystal gems out of thousands who died in the war, along with doing nothing to stop the remaining tyrannical rule of the Diamonds. Peace is only an option if it is possible. The Diamonds, to this point, had been portrayed as heartless and cruel beings who would not listen to reason or emotion. A peaceful protest would not have worked against them. After how many lives they have destroyed, it is completely realistic to believe that their lives deserve to be destroyed too. An evil life destroyed for the sake and freedom of millions of innocent lives is never a bad thing. This controversy only continued as the show progressed. It started to portray Rose's rebellion against the status quo of Homeworld as an inherently bad thing, which seems to go back on everything the show had been teaching us before. If Rose truly did shatter Pink Diamond, that means she took down an evil tyrant and freed many suffering gems from under her rule. But apparently this was bad because it made the other evil tyrants feel sad. Oh no. I completely understand wanting to create complex characters who are not solidly good or bad, but there is a line between doing this and just straight up excusing their actions. For example, Jasper had an interesting and understandable reason for the way she acted. She lost her leader, who she looked up to, and this rage came out as abusive and murderous actions. Of course, this does not mean her actions were right or justified, but it gives a reason for it, which makes her both an interesting character and clearly a villain. This could have been done with the Diamonds too. It would have been possible to show them having complex emotions without making us feel bad for them or excusing the fact that they regularly shatter innocent gems and own a multitude of slaves. Like, yeah, no one is 100% evil in the show or whatever, but I'm pretty sure murder and slavery count as pretty evil. At this point in the show, it's hard to tell what the writers are trying to do with the Diamonds, but the message it's giving off isn't a good one. I know it may seem like a jump to conclude that Steven Universe is some kind of evil propaganda, but while it may seem silly to you, it genuinely does have an impact on the lives of people of color. Since Bismuth, a black woman, was shown to be evil for trying to stand up against the society that oppressed her for so long, people may start feeling this way about real black women too. Think of it this way. Including gay characters like Ruby, Sapphire, and Pearl makes people understand and accept gay people more, along with making gay people themselves feel more accepted in society. Then portraying black people as inherent villains for being angry at their oppressors has the opposite effect for real black people. Being angry about being mistreated is okay. Being angry is justified, and sometimes anger is the only way change can happen. Sitting down and having an emotional talk with every nasty person in the world won't work. Disrupting the oppressive structures that define our society using protest and passion will. This is what Bismuth wanted to do. There are a lot of other issues I and many others have with the show, such as the portrayal of lesbians being angry and cruel, the portrayal of muscular women as inherently abusive, along with the instant forgiveness of Jasper despite her being abusive, showing violently racist uncles as forgivable and understandable uncles, and whatever the heck the art style is doing. But in my opinion, so much of the show would be improved if the issues with Bismuth and the Diamonds were cleared up. This could be done by having Steven realize that the more he passively allows the Diamonds to dictate, the more innocent gem lives are put in danger, and that Bismuth was right to want to overthrow the Diamond's power. Stephen, with the crystal gems, could then take action against the Diamonds and free Gemkind. It was so sad to see such a passionate and lively black woman be written off the show so quickly and used only for marketing hype for a special episode, when she could have been and done so much more for the development of the show and portraying the originally intended message about the oppressive nature of society. I'm fully aware that I'm probably going to get a lot of hateful comments on this video, so if you're going to discuss things in the comments, please do so civilly. I made this video to give a voice to the black members of the fandom, and give them a space to talk about their issues with the show without being beaten down by white fans. In order to understand Steven Universe's message of peace, we must also lend our ears to those who have been treated wrongly, both by the fandom and the show. Please do not turn the comments into an area of hatred and anger, but rather a place of listening and understanding. And while you're at it, do the same to the fandom, too. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to take this moment to promote Judgment Boy's webcomic, The Myth of Cinnabar, which is finally starting up with regular updates again. Check it out at themythofcinnabar.com. You should also check out Carpe Diem, a comedy fantasy D&D podcast. Check out JB's stores for merch, and be sure to follow him on Twitter for updates. Subscribe for more, and take a look at the other videos we have to offer, too. Hey everyone, I'm Sam, and I'm currently recording this in the middle of summer with no fans or open windows to not disturb the recording, and British homes don't have air conditioning, and I'm dying.